Most people don't lose control of conversations because they lack intelligence. They lose control because they walk into traps they don't even realize exist. And the dangerous part is, most of these traps feel like the right thing to do. They feel polite or collaborative. They feel emotionally intelligent. But in high stakes communications, what feels right is often what costs you the most power. Over the past several weeks, I've been breaking down what I call communication traps, patterns that look harmless on the surface, but quietly strip away your authority, your leverage, and your control in conversations. Today, I want to step back and give you the full picture because once you see these traps clearly, you start to recognize them everywhere. So, what exactly is a trap? A trap in communication is not a mistake, it's a miscalibrated instinct. It's something you can be trained or something that you've been trained, either socially, professionally, even culturally, to do. That works in low stakes environments, but fails completely when pressure increases. And here's the key: most traps are rooted in the desire to be liked, understood, or accepted. But authority doesn't come from those things. Authority comes from control of direction, emotion, and pace. Let's walk through the major ones, the major traps, not as isolated ideas, but as a system. The first one is the likability trap. This is where most people start. You want to be seen as cooperative, easy to work with, pleasant. So you soften your language, you over accommodate, you avoid tension. But here's what actually happens: you become safe, but not respected. And in high stakes conversations, people don't follow the most likable person. They follow the person who feels certain and grounded. The second trap is the confidence trap. This one is subtle. People think confidence means speaking more, explaining more, or asserting more. So they fill space. They push harder. They try to demonstrate confidence. But real confidence does the opposite. It removes the need to prove anything. And the moment you start trying to prove confidence, you signal uncertainty. The third trap is what I call the overexplainer trap. This is one of the fastest ways to lose authority. Someone questions you, and instead of holding your position, you start adding more context, more details, more justifications. And what you think is clarity actually sounds like defensiveness. The more you explain, the more it feels like your position needs support, and strong positions don't feel fragile. The fourth is what I call the validation trap. You begin to look for signals that you're being accepted, nods or agreement, positive reactions. And without realizing it, you start adjusting your message to maintain that approval. But the moment your message depends on their reaction, you've handed them control of the conversation. The next trap is the agreement trap. This is where people confuse alignment with effectiveness. So they say things like, that makes sense, or I see your point, or I agree. Even when they don't fully agree, what they're trying to do is reduce tension. But what they're actually doing is weakening their negotiation or negotiating position in real time. The next trap is what I call the harmony trap. This one shows up in leadership and in relationships most often. You prioritize keeping things smooth instead of keeping things accurate. You avoid friction. You delay difficult conversations. You soften truth. But long-term harmony is built through clarity, not avoidance. The next is what I call the comfort trap. You stay in conversational patterns that feel familiar: safe topics, predictable responses, low risk engagement. But growth in communication only happens under controlled discomfort. If a conversation feels completely comfortable, there's a good chance nothing meaningful is happening. The next is what I call the respect trap. This is where people try to earn respect through behavior. They become overly accommodating, overly polite, or overly differential. But respect is not earned through submission, it's established through consistency and boundaries. The next trap is the silence misuse. Um, Most people misunderstand silence. They either avoid it completely or use it awkwardly. But silence, when used correctly, is not absence, it's pressure. And people who understand how to use silence control pacing without saying a word. There's a pattern behind all the traps. And here's the part most people miss: all of these traps come from the same underlying instinct, the need to manage how you are perceived. And that instinct becomes dangerous under pressure. Because the moment you start managing perception, you stop controlling the structure of the conversation. And the person controlling structure controls the outcome. So, what replaces these traps? It's not aggression, it's not dominance, it's not talking more, it's something much quieter. It's restraint with intent. You speak less, but with precision. You react less, but with awareness. You hold your position without needing to defend it. And most importantly, you stop trying to win the moment and start controlling the direction of the conversation. Now, why does all this matter? This is exactly why I'm building out a deeper framework around these traps. Because individually they're useful, but together they form a system, a way to understand why conversations go sideways, why intelligent people lose leverage, why authority collapses under pressure, and more importantly, how to pretend or prevent it before it happens. Most people go into their next important conversation and focus on what they're going to say. But the people who consistently control outcomes focus on something very different. They focus on what they will not fall into. Because once you can recognize the traps, you don't need to fight for control, you naturally keep it. If this episode resonated with you, I'm building out a full framework that expands on each of these traps in very good detail and depth. Not just what they are, but how they show up in real conversations and how to handle them in real time. Thanks for stopping by.